the tower doesn't stop. Entity consolidation detected, charging. The sand begins to pull itself back together, reformed by a sheer, desperate will. It lashes out again, the cycle of violence repeating. 3, 2. Lesson number 3, don't get smashed in the head. That ain't good, Peter warns as he's caught again. The tower locks on. 1, aim. Another bolt of lightning tears through the air, turning the sand into white-hot glass for a split second before it shatters back into dust. Peter is thrown against a hangar wall, sliding down to the floor. W.H. Hoof? Richard lands beside him, the black suit vibrating with the energy in the air. You okay? You don't look like you're doing okay, Richard says, his eyes wide behind his mask. Peter shakes his head, trying to clear the cobwebs. I don't even know what's going on, except that the tower keeps blasting him apart. It's a containment device. If I had to guess, the suit adds. Richard looks from his father to the tower, a plan forming. That's kind of interesting. What do you think, Dad? Peter points at the giant. Get away. The giant grabs Peter again, its grip tighter this time. It's not just holding him, it's using him as a shield against the tower. Richard watches the tower hum again. So, if we turn it off, that means what exactly? That tower seems to be the only thing keeping the creature at bay, Peter replies, struggling for air. Every time it assumes a human form, it's quickly reduced to particulates. Peter is slammed against the concrete. I think I'm about to pass out. Richard makes his decision, sprinting toward the base of the tower. Okay, we turn it off then. He'll be free. Yes, but free to do what, Richard? To stop using Dad as a hammer? Good point. The countdown starts again, the energy building to a blinding white light. Can you stop it? Richard asks his suit. 3, 2. 1, yes. Tendrils of the black suit lash out, sinking into the machinery of the tower and short-circuiting the main power coupling just as it prepares to fire. The humming stops, the lightning dies. A deep, heavy silence falls over the military base as the energy dissipates into the sky. The sand giant freezes, the rage leaving its face. It looks down at Peter, then at its own hands, as if seeing them for the first time in years. Slowly, the massive form begins to collapse, the grains of sand losing their cohesion and falling like rain onto the dusty ground. Richard runs back to Peter as the dust settles. You okay? I think I might have a concussion, but you did good. I'm really proud of you. Nice save. Richard looks at the pile of sand, his heart still racing. Thanks, I just hope this was a good idea. From the center of the dust, a man begins to emerge, his skin pale and his eyes wet with tears. Oh, thank God I'm back. He looks up at the 2 Spidermen, his voice trembling with a weight of 3 long years. Oh my, those are the first words I've been able to say in almost 3 years. You saved me. Richard tilts his head, his suit retracting slightly. Cool, no problem, so. What are you, exactly? The man sighs, the memory of his ordeal washing over him. Just a normal guy who got too curious. They caught me after I cut through the fence and snuck onto the base. I knew someone was doing illegal experiments here, but I never thought they would make me into one. I became someone who could be the Earth, trapped and hopeless. Peter stands up, offering a hand to the man. Cool, then maybe next time, instead of using me like a bat, spell out the word help, or save me. Just an idea. Night slowly begins to fall over the desert, the moon hanging full and bright over the massive stone arches. Peter and Mary Jane lie suspended in a hammock of webbing, looking up at the stars. So, it turns out he was just a guy asking too many questions, MJ asks. Peter nods, the quiet of the night a stark contrast to the battle earlier. Yeah, the wrong questions to the wrong people about what's wrong with the world. I dunno, Peter. I don't think it's weird to ask questions, MJ muses. What's weird is people who wake up every morning dead set on believing they know exactly how things are. She turns her head toward him, a soft smile on her lips. Hey, I got a question. Lay it on me, Tiger, Peter replies, his voice full of warmth. He looks into her eyes, the world outside their web feeling miles away. Why do you love me? He asks, the question catching her off guard. She laughs, a light, beautiful sound in the desert air. Because you're awesome and really good-looking. Peter smiles, though the shadow of their life on the run still lingers. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Did you try Gwen again? MJ's expression saddens as she shakes her head. Straight to voicemail, but she was there at his funeral. I saw the pictures online. When's the last time you talked to Ben? She asks. I'm supposed to check in tomorrow. MJ sighs, leaning back. I hope he has good news. The next day, Ben Riley stands in the middle of a busy camp, a phone held tightly to his ear. You've got 5 minutes, less if you want to play it safe, a technician warns him. The phone clicks and Ben's face hardens. Hello? Hey, Ben, the voice on the other end responds. It's a call he's been waiting for and dreading. On the other side of the country, J. Jonah Jameson sits in a dimly lit office, his own phone pressed to his ear. No, I haven't considered more life insurance. Honestly, at my age, I'm not sure I could get coverage. Ben's voice is urgent, hushed. Do I need to come home? No, definitely not, Jameson replies, his eyes fixed on the door. Okay, next week, same time, Ben asks. Yes, thanks for your call. The line goes dead with a sharp click. Jameson looks up as the door opens, his face an unreadable mask. Insurance salesman? Again? A voice asks. It's almost like they won't take no for an answer. Wesley, Kingpin's right-hand man, stands in the doorway, a stack of folders in his hands. And maybe both of you should reconsider. He steps into the room, followed by a phalanx of armed guards, all of them wearing the same unsettling, empty expressions. Well, I'm strong as a bull. How about you, Ben? Ben Riley stands tall, his arms crossed over his chest. Stronger. Now, why are you here, Mr. Wesley? Wesley points a finger at them, his voice oozing with a fake, corporate concern. The two of you have been doing quite a dance, digging up all kinds of untruths about one of the great men of this city. Ben's jaw tightens. Tough, and there's a chasm of difference between what you and I would consider an untruth. Jameson scoffs, his own defiance rising to the surface. I mean, the whole idea of it, you, an innocent party being harmed by our reporting, it's a bit much, isn't it? Wesley doesn't flinch. He simply drops a folder onto the desk, its contents spilling out to reveal something horrific. Ben leans in, his eyes scanning the documents. What is this? He asks, his voice barely a whisper. Tomorrow, the Daily Bugle is running a story about the reckless owner-operators of the paper. I am here, on their behalf, to see if you wanted to make a comment. Ben stares at the photos, crime scene shots of bodies littering the streets. What you are looking at are various well-sourced police and forensic reports confirming the deaths and murders of a not-so-insignificant number of people. Wesley adjusts his glasses, the glare hiding his eyes. Who all happen to share the same name, Ben Riley, so the real question is, what did you do? A cold dread fills the room. Ben looks at the mountain of a man standing by the window. You killed every Ben Riley in New York. Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime, turns slightly, his massive frame blotting out the light. Goodness, no, I belong to a global organization. We killed every Ben Riley on the planet. Ben is speechless, the scale of the massacre finally sinking in. Why would you? You did that? Why? Kingpin sighs as if explaining a simple math problem to a child. You write a story and you think you're changing the world. You tell the truth and you think it matters. It does not. Jameson stands his ground, the fire of the bugle still burning in his soul. And this is supposed to, what? Make us quit. You already killed everyone. Kingpin steps forward, a terrifying smile spreading across his face. Good, I don't want you to stop. Ben looks at him confused. What? You give me something to point to pick apart, to reframe, to ridicule, to further our plans. I want you to keep going. You're a useful tool to separate us from them. Your plans? Ben asks. Kingpin leans in, his breath cold on Ben's face. I hear that if you want to hear God laugh, tell him all about your plans. Here's what you don't know, I work for God. He turns to leave, his presence leaving a vacuum in the room. So, please, continue what you're doing, be a useful distraction, but stop hiding behind others. You'll just get the wrong people hurt. Wesley lingers at the door, a pen poised over his clipboard. So, care to make a comment, for the record? Ben Riley looks directly into the lens of the camera, his eyes burning with a new, dangerous resolve. Sure, when all this is done, when wrongs have been righted and the shadow is lifted. I'm the guy who's gonna write the obituary, and you can quote me on that. The door slams shut, leaving Ben and Jameson alone in the dark office. The spider logo burns bright on the page, a reminder of the hero who once was, and the war that is still to come. The rain falls relentlessly over the silent stones of the cemetery, a gray shroud over the city's grief. A single headstone stands out, the name carved deep into the cold marble: Harry Osborn. Gwen Stacy stands before the grave, her yellow coat a stark splash of color against the gloom. "Life isn't fair," she whispers, the words an echo of the past. She remembers a night years ago, sitting on her bed with her father, George Stacy. "I wish that wasn't how things are, but it is, Gwen." He had sat beside her, his hand heavy on her shoulder. "And because of that, things are going to be different now. But I have to keep doing my job. And you have to get up every day and continue to become the amazing person your mother always knew you were going to be." Gwen had looked up at him, her eyes bright with tears. "When will it feel better, Dad?" George had looked away, unable to lie to her. "Never. No one ever gets past losing somebody that you love. But the good news is that they're never really gone. They live on." The memory shifts to a brighter time, a fancy restaurant where a young, vibrant Gwen smiles at a boy across the table. "In your heart." Harry Osborn beams back at her, his red hair perfectly coiffed. "Well, I'm glad we have that in common. I just so happen to like myself as well." They sit together, the world outside their window forgot. "You want to know a secret?" Gwen asks, leaning in. "Oh, I love secrets." "Okay, here goes. The truth is, I didn't think I'd ever like you. I hate rich people." Harry chuckles. "Hey, well, good thing I'm not just rich, I'm wealthy." Gwen's smile widens, the warmth of the moment etched into her soul. "And ridiculous, and humble." Harry takes her hand, his voice dropping to a serious tone. "Do you want to know my secret? I'd love to." He looks deep into her eyes, the playfulness gone. "I don't like you at all, Gwen Stacy. I love you." Gwen's breath catches, her world changing in an instant. "I know, I love you too." The restaurant hums around them as they plan their future. "So, you finally ready to meet the parents?" Harry asks. "I dunno. You tell some pretty scary stories, mister." Suddenly, a phone buzzes on the table. Gwen picks it up, her smile fading. "Sorry, let me. Hello? Oh, okay, thanks." She looks up at Harry, her face pale. "What is it?" "They found him. They found my father." Back in the cemetery, the memory of her father's voice returns, a haunting refrain. "No one ever gets past losing somebody that you love." You see, as the years pass, your memory of Mom won't change, and you get to remember her in the way that most children would. Perfectly. Gwen had looked at her father with absolute faith. "No, I'll always think you're perfect, Dad." George had turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Well, I'm not. I have secrets that many in the world and especially you won't find out about until I'm gone." Eyes had flashed with a strange green light. "You might not understand who I was. People might say bad things about me. Just understand one thing, everything I've done was for you." The memory fades into a cold reality. Gwen stands in a dark, forested area, her eyes glowing with that same eerie light. "That's my legacy to you." A figure in a purple robe stands before her. "After years of trying, we finally recovered your father's remains. They didn't want to give them up, but now his final wish can come to pass. He wanted you to take his place and join us," the figure explains, offering a path forward out of the grief. Gwen looks into the glowing orb of the figure's helmet. "Do you know the words?" She recites them like a prayer. "The world is a lie, and only through embracing those lies and becoming a master of them can we truly see." In a hidden sanctum, a group of figures gathers around a massive, glowing table. "Our craft is old, older than the lie. Our power is ageless. We are Mysterio." Gwen feels the power surge through her as an amulet is placed on her forehead. "Urfit." The leader of the group looks at her, his eyes cold and ancient. "Welcome, sister." Years pass in a blur of memories. Weddings, celebrations, a life lived in the shadow of a secret society. Gwen and Harry celebrate their first Christmas together as a married couple. "Lotta pressure here gift-wise," Harry jokes, holding a wrapped package. Gwen watches him, the secret she carries a heavy weight behind her eyes. "So ridiculous, you must feel really good about your gift." "I do. Go ahead and open it." She tears away the paper to reveal an old leather-bound book. Oh my God, is this an actual copy? Harry beams with pride. The World That Is and the World That Was. By Dr. Jericho Drum. Let me tell you, super hard to find a copy of that. Gwen runs a finger over the title, her voice dropping. Do you know what this book is about? It suggests that the world has two timelines, the one we're currently living in, and the one that we are supposed to be living in. Harry smiles, unaware of the truth in her words. See, I knew you'd like it, so, what you get me? 1 year ago, Gwen stands before the Council of Mysterio. Everything we've worked toward, everything we believe in is real. The world is an illusion fabricated by one man. Our recent elevation under Fisk only happened because my husband's parents were killed in the Staines/Stark explosion. That's when we learned all of this, the real history of the world. The elders listen in silence. We'll need to act fast, release the information and wipe the fog from the eyes of the world. Gwen shakes her head. No, acting fast is flying too close to the sun, and that's exactly what got my father killed. I think we need a better delivery system. She looks at the table, a new plan forming, but I'll think of something. Months later, Gwen and Harry sit at a dinner party with Peter and Mary Jane. Children? No, I'd like to think I'd be a good mom, but none for us yet, Gwen says softly. Harry laughs, holding his glass high. Well, it's just the best thing ever. What's the holdup? No, you're not, that's a lie, the suit's voice whispers to Peter. Peter looks at Gwen, his spider sense humming with a low, constant thrum. Now, there's the truth, the world we'd be bringing them into. After the party, Gwen approaches MJ. I was hoping since you're their brand manager that you could set something up between me and the grumpy old men of the paper. She catches her reflection in the window, the image of Mysterio staring back for a split second. I'm kinda in the mood to see if I can launch a pirate ship. And let the word ring forth, raise the walls, burn the fields, salt the earth, destroy the empire. A few months later, Harry stands in a high-tech lab, wearing a suit of green and gold armor. You were right. Ben and Jonah were way less interested in superhero antics than all the maker files we had. Gwen watches him, her arms crossed. The wrong thing would be letting the world continue in the direction it's been heading most of our lives. If they want to do something about it, who are we to stop them? She hands him a drink. Here, drink this, electrolytes. Hey, you want to hear something funny? Sure. They thought it might be you in the suit. They thought you were the Green Goblin, Harry laughs. That is hilarious. Yeah, can you imagine that? Gwen looks at the helmet of the Goblin's suit, her reflection distorted in the green metal. No, I cannot. 2 months ago, the winter snow falls heavily over the Osborne estate, a quiet witness to the unfolding tragedy. Gwen is startled as Mysterio appears in her living room. Oh, what are you doing here now? I don't have time for this. The figure's voice is cold, factual. I found him, your husband. Gwen freezes. What, where? Craven took him, along with his sidekick. He caught their scent earlier and laid in wait until he could act. He kept it all, very quiet. But now he's made the mistake of including a confidant of ours into his schemes. He doesn't know about our alliance with the Mole Man, but Craven does mean to kill them. Gwen's heart hammers against her ribs. The amulet passes from you to me in 2 days. Do I have that long? Mysterio turns to leave. I'll talk to our friend, buy some time. Thank you, Gwen whispers. One other thing. In the lab, Gwen slams a door shut, her fury boiling over. Are you aware that you're being followed? She screams at Otto Octavius. Otto doesn't look up from his microscope. It was Harry's plan, a security thing he had me do, so yes, you're being followed and protected. Mysterio's voice echoes in the room, invisible to everyone but Gwen. He's too curious and too close. Gwen points a finger at the door. Cut him loose, you're fired. 2 months ago, a massive explosion tears through the forest, the fire reflecting in Harry's wide eyes. No, I'm not like him. We're not him, he gasps, reaching for Peter. Craven the Hunter stands over them, his face covered in blood. What are you talking about, Peter? He's a killer. That's what he does. Harry reaches into his boot, pulling out a hidden revolver. He won't stop until he wins. It's him, or it's us, Harry screams, his finger tightening on the trigger. Suddenly, a purple-gloved hand clamps over Harry's mouth from behind. Woo! SSSHHHHHH, don't speak, not a word. Watch, Mysterio whispers. Craven doesn't hesitate. He fires his own weapon, the deafening blast echoing through the woods. Belam. Harry collapses into the dirt, a single, neat hole in his forehead. Harry, oh God, Nuo, Peter screams, rushing toward his fallen friend. Peter grabs Craven by the throat, the rage finally breaking through. What did you do? Mysterio watches from the shadows, the fire reflecting in his glass dome. Well, this is quite the dilemma, isn't it? He killed my friend, Peter growls. The figure doesn't flinch, not hardly. He's a killer, and that's what killers do, so you have to wonder, if he is so good at it, what makes you think your loved ones are safe? Honestly, what makes you think they are still alive at all? Gwen, inside the Mysterio armor, looks down at Harry's body. They're fine, but let it play out. But I do think you should run home now, Peter Parker. You couldn't save your friend, but perhaps you can still save them. Craven groans as he pushes himself up from the dirt. Woo, what are you playing at, Mysterio? Mysterio looms over him, the green smoke swirling around his feet. You dare to come between me and my hunt. I do, Gwen replies, her voice like ice. But only because you came between me and mine. She pulls the revolver from Harry's lifeless hand, pointing it directly at Craven's head. So long, comrade. The forest light is blotted out by a single, final flash of orange light. Belamum. Gwen stands over the two bodies, the fire roaring behind her. A voice calls out from the trees. Mysterio. She turns, her mask retracting to reveal her grief-stricken face. Yes, dear, she answers, looking at the man she once loved. The man stares at her, his world shattering in an instant. What, the Attendollar, is going on? Now, in the present, the rain continues to wash over Harry's grave, the silence of the cemetery deafening. Gwen stands by the headstone, a solitary figure in the downpour. So, I'm dead, and the Green Goblin is not, which must mean. Harry Osborn stands beside her, holding an umbrella over them both. I'm not the Green Goblin. Yes, Gwen agrees, looking at him with a strange, dark affection. They stand together in the field of stone, a ghost and his wife, bound by secrets and lies. Harry looks down at her. Gwen, yes, Harry, she asks softly. He looks out at the gray world around them. Why didn't you tell me? Gwen doesn't look away from the grave. I was raised in this, and it's been part of my life longer than you have. I thought I could keep it separate. I thought I could have both. Harry turns to her, his expression unreadable. Not if you keep lying. No way. And not if you're going to keep being so secretive, Gwen. That's not going to work. Gwen looks up at him, her blue eyes reflecting the cold rain. I'm Mysterio, Harry, and secretive is just another word for mysterious. That's who I am. They walk away together, their silhouettes fading into the mist. Sigh, we'll figure it out, Harry says. I know we will. Gwen stops at the edge of the cemetery, looking back one last time. Okay, so what's next? She looks at the horizon where the sun is finally beginning to break through the clouds. Now we take the fight to them. Now we win. In the dimly lit room, Ben Parker walks through the doorway, his hand instinctively reaching for the light as he realizes he's not alone. Gotta say, this is happening a bit too much for my taste, Ben says, his voice steady despite the surprise. He looks toward the figure standing by the window, a man who shouldn't be there. How'd you get in here? Ben asks, the weight of a lifetime of experience keeping him grounded as he stares at the younger man. Harry Osborn turns his head slightly, his expression cold and hardened by whatever he's seen in the world outside. Not hardly, he responds, the shadow of his former self barely visible under the weight of his new purpose. Ben leans back against the kitchen counter, watching Harry with a mixture of pity and concern. Yeah, I can see that, you know. Ben starts, reaching for a bottle of whiskey to cut the tension. Ben pours a drink, the amber liquid splashing into the glass as he thinks about his nephew. He doesn't talk about it, but Peter's pretty upset about what he thought happened to you. And honestly upset is just me putting it nicely, Ben explains. Harry looks down, the mention of Peter clearly hitting a nerve he wasn't prepared to deal with tonight. Maybe you should reach out, maybe set him straight, so you can get in touch with him, Harry suggests, his voice dropping to a whisper. Ben takes a slow sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving Harry's. If I need to, yes. We have a system, Ben replies, the secrecy of their life hanging heavy in the air between them. Ben crosses his arms, the shadows deepening the lines on his face as he shifts the conversation to those who matter most. How's his family? Safe, Ben asks, the protective instinct for his family never wavering. Harry stands in the middle of the room, looking like a man who has lost everything but his mission. They're safe, safe enough. Okay, good, Harry replies, though the word safe seems to have a different meaning to him now. Ben sets his glass down, the finality of the sound echoing in the quiet apartment. Why are you here, Harry? Ben asks, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Harry moves toward the door, his hand resting on the handle as he prepares to return to the dark. I just wanted to check in, make sure he was okay, and also to tell you to keep your head down. Things are about to get serious, Harry warns. Ben's face hardens, the warning not lost on him, even if he's seen more than his fair share of trouble. You say that like they haven't already been that way, Ben retorts, his voice gravelly with experience. Harry pauses for a moment, the weight of the coming storm reflected in his eyes. Compared to what's coming, they haven't, he says, before stepping out into the night. Later, the sun rises over the sprawling, jagged skyline of New York City, where the logo of Oscorp Industries looms over the streets like a watchful god. Inside a high-rise office, Robbie Robertson sits across from Gwen Stacy, his eyes scanning the documents on the table. Are you sure this is right? No one would ever confuse me for being an investigative journalist, Gwen, but I think it's fair to say I know the difference between good information and bad, Robbie says. Gwen leans forward, her gaze intense and unwavering as she challenges the veteran newsman. And why again should I trust you, Mr. Robertson? She asks, the power dynamic in the room shifting in her favor. Robbie smiles a weary, knowing smile, the kind of smile shared between people who know too many secrets. Because we Mysterios have to stick together, don't we? Robbie asks, revealing a deeper connection than business. Gwen doesn't blink, her loyalty to their shared cause as solid as the building they stand in. Yes, we do, she confirms, her voice low and dangerous. She begins to ask another question, but the intercom on her desk suddenly erupts with a harsh buzz. And because we shouldn't have secrets between us, I have to ask, what exactly are you going to do with those rapport? Gwen is cut off by the sharp sound. Gwen looks at the device as her assistant's voice crackles through the line. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Stacy, but your 4 o'clock meeting has arrived. They're early, the assistant says, the tension in the room suddenly spiking. The heavy doors to the office swing open, and Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime, fills the doorway, his massive frame flanked by his loyal aide, Wesley. Robbie Robertson passes Fisk on his way out, the two men sharing a silent, icy glance that speaks volumes of their mutual history. Gwen stands as Fisk enters, his presence commanding the entire floor. Please have a seat, Gwen offers, her voice calm. Thank you, I won't be staying that long, Fisk replies, his tone like grinding stones. Gwen watches him, her fingers steepled as she waits for the giant to state his business. What a shame, she says, her eyes narrowing as she prepares for the verbal combat to come. Fisk leans over the desk, his shadow completely enveloping Gwen as he begins to lay out his expectations. I'll do you the courtesy of not pretending that your husband was the one who actually ran his father's company. Everyone knows it's always been you, Fisk growls. He looms closer, his eyes fixed on hers with a predator's intensity. I'm also going to assume that you were privy to the arrangements your husband and I had regarding other business ventures. But I am here to let you know that I expect those arrangements to continue, in perpetuity. For all time, Fisk declares. Gwen tilts her head back, showing no fear in the face of the most powerful man in New York. Whether I like it or not, she asks, her voice dripping with defiance. Fisk turns slightly, his face a mask of brutal pragmatism. Some people run the world, others simply live in it. I am sorry for your loss. Condolences, he says, though the sympathy is purely transactional. Fisk walks away, leaving Wesley to finalize the details as he exits the office. I'm headed back to the office. I leave this in your hands, Mr. Wesley, Fisk orders, his footsteps heavy against the carpet. Wesley adjusts his glasses, his face unreadable as he looks at Gwen. Mr. Fisk can be a bit demanding, he notes, the understatement of the century. Gwen looks at the empty space where Fisk stood, the air still vibrating with his presence. That must be difficult for you, she remarks, her mind already moving toward her next move. Suddenly, the air in the room shifts as a swirl of green smoke begins to materialize, and the crystalline helmet of Mysterio appears. You have no idea, the figure whispers, the voice echoing within the suit. The smoke clears to reveal the full Mysterio armor standing in the center of Gwen's office. There's quite a bit of dancing that someone in my position has to do. For example, I helped you find your husband so you could save him, and in return, all I got was a growing number of questions from Mr. Fisk regarding the disappearance of Craven, Mysterio says. Gwen looks at the masked figure, her expression weary but resolute. But you would never do that, Gwen says. Yes, because I have a commitment to our cause. Speaking of, I think you have something that belongs to me, Mysterio responds. Gwen reaches into her desk and produces a golden amulet, the Eye of Agamotto, its surface shimmering with an ancient, forbidden power. No, it belongs to us, Gwen corrects him, the artifact a symbol of their secret alliance. She sets the amulet on the desk, the golden eye seeming to follow Mysterio's movements. Don't forget that, Gwen warns, the stakes of their partnership becoming clear. Mysterio takes the amulet, the green smoke swirling around his gloved hand. I'll keep that in mind, he says, his voice muffled by the dome as he begins to fade away. Wesley walks toward the elevator, his task complete for now, while Gwen stands by the window, watching him leave through the reflection in the glass. Once the doors close, Gwen speaks to the empty air, knowing she's still being watched. They're gone. You can come out now, she says, clutching the amulet tightly. Harry Osborn steps out from behind a partition, a wry smile crossing his face. Gotta say, dear, it's a little unnerving watching you operate, Harry admits, leaning against the doorframe. Gwen turns to face him, the city lights beginning to twinkle behind her. Are you sure he doesn't have any idea what we're getting ready to do? Harry asks. We'd know if he did. After all, he's about to be out of a job, Gwen replies coldly. She looks down at the amulet, her eyes reflecting the cold fire of her ambition. We have the amulet for 1 week. Let's go to war, she declares, the plan finally set in motion. Later that night, Harry Osborn walks down the stairs into a subway station, his hood pulled low to hide his face from the few commuters still out at this hour. He stops in front of a newsstand, checking his surroundings one last time before moving deeper into the bowels of the city. He arrives at York Groceries, a nondescript corner store that serves as the gateway to his secret life. He steps inside, the bell above the door chiming softly. The shopkeeper barely looks up as Harry makes his way to the back, moving through the narrow aisles of canned goods and dry snacks. Harry reaches the counter and places a specific coin on the wood, and with a low hum, a section of the floor begins to slide away, revealing a hidden stairwell. He descends the stairs into the darkness, the sounds of the street fading away as the secret bunker comes into view. The laboratory is filled with the glow of monitors and the mechanical whirring of robotic arms. I know, it's not as nice as your last lab, but beggars can't be choosers, right? Harry asks, walking toward the center of the room. Otto Octavius looks up from a workbench, his goggles reflecting the blueprints on the screen. The irony of that coming from a man in your position is rich. Oh yeah? Why's that? Because you're a dead man whose wife is going to legally inherit everything you own, Otto retorts. Harry looks at the suit of armor standing in the corner, its green plates gleaming under the harsh industrial lights. I guess we should ask him, Harry says, a grim look on his face. The green goblin armor stands ready, a masterwork of engineering designed for one thing, the total destruction of his enemies. Otto continues his diagnostic, the robotic arms checking the seals on the suit. The goblin armor is good to go, diagnostics all in the green, but the suit's AI hasn't been active in months. Are you sure you're ready for this? Otto asks. Harry shakes his head, his resolve hardening. Nope, but today's a work day, and there's no putting this off. Okay, Before you do that, there are a few things I need, Harry says. Do they cost money? Otto asks. Of course, Harry replies. Harry gestures with his hand as he explains the limits of their resources. Look, Otto, of course I have money hidden away. It's how I paid for this place. But as you pointed out, it's finite, so just make sure anything you ask for, you actually need, Harry explains. Otto's goggles glow as he lists his requirements without hesitation. I need a particle accelerator, and yes, I 100% need a pocket-sized nuclear reactor, Otto demands. Harry sighs, knowing the risks they're taking just to stay operational. What about the other thing I asked you to do? Harry asks. The Parker residence is locked down. I'm actually getting ready to finish installing the security system so we know if someone comes looking for them, Otto answers. Harry points a finger at Otto, his tone stern and paternal. Don't mess with their stuff, Otto, Harry warns, his protective instinct overriding his scientific curiosity. Otto stares back, his face a mask of professional irritation. Seriously, don't steal anything, Harry repeats, his eyes narrowed behind his mask. Otto turns away, picking up a heavy metallic case. I can't believe you would say that to me. Oh, I've upgraded your suit, you've got rocket launchers now, Otto says. Cool, all right, you go do what you gotta do. We'll catch up later, Harry replies. Otto waves as he heads for the exit, the nuclear reactor components rattling in the case. Don't forget about my reactor, he calls back. Of course, it's the first thing on my to-do list, Harry says dismissively. Harry stands alone in the lab, the silence suddenly overwhelming as he looks at the suit that defines his family's legacy. He sighs, the weight of his father's ghost looming over him. All right, Dad, Harry whispers, stepping into the suit. The armor locks into place, the mechanical joints clicking as the systems come online. Let's get this over with, Harry says. Booting, the AI responds, its voice chillingly familiar. The AI begins to process the new data, the HUD flickering with life. What is this? You've been gone. Time has passed. What is? Mapping changes in brain patterns, downloading memories. What is this? The AI asks, its digital mind racing. Harry's face is partially obscured by the visor as he talks back to the machine. You were captured. You were beaten. Broken? The AI asks. Yeah, Dad, I had a bad run, Harry says through gritted teeth. A bad run? The AI screams. The AI's voice becomes cold and analytical, critiquing Harry's failures with brutal honesty. A bad run is fortune looking the other way. A bad run is unexpected weather and unforeseen circumstances. You didn't even know who your wife was, the AI mocks. Harry looks out at the city, the goblin mask fully integrated with his own face. Which is no surprise, no great insight. After all, do you even know who you are, Harry Osborn? Do you even know what you are? The AI asks, the question hanging in the air. Suddenly, the goblin glider roars to life, and Harry takes to the sky, surrounded by a swarm of pumpkin bombs that hover like deadly fireflies. I am tired of being ashamed of you. Do you hear me, son? I am weary of this shame that haunts me even after my death. It's time to prove yourself. Once and for all, the AI commands, and a moment later, a massive explosion rocks a nearby building. Boom. High above the city, the Green Goblin dives through the smoke, followed closely by Mysterio as they head toward the target. Get ready, here we go, Harry shouts, the rush of the wind drowning out his father's voice. Mysterio hovers above the rooftop, his gloved hands glowing with green energy as they look down into the burning building. Nothing. Why aren't they shooting us? We just blew a hole through their building. Why aren't? None of them are holding guns, Harry observes. It's too volatile an environment for guns, dear, Mysterio explains. Inside the factory, hundreds of workers are forced to assemble deadly weapons under the watchful eye of armed guards. When Mr. Negative and his demons took the neighborhood over, they hid this weapons factory inside a residential building. The people who could leave did. Everyone that's left didn't have anywhere else to go. And now they're forced to work here, Harry narrates. A close-up shows a worker's trembling hands as they assemble a demon bomb. In a demon bomb factory. Export a specialty, the narration continues, highlighting the horror of the situation. The demon guards look up, their masks hiding their shock as the Green Goblin crashes through the skylight. "It's that goblin guy, he's back, get him," they shout, drawing their katanas. Harry lands on his glider, his eyes glowing with a predatory light. "You get the civilians out of here. I'll take care of the weapons," Harry orders Mysterio. Mysterio vanishes in a swirl of smoke, leaving Harry alone with the guards. "Wait, what about?" Harry starts to ask, but it's too late. Suddenly, dozens of Mysterio illusions fill the room, their purple capes swirling in the green smoke. "So it's gonna be like that, huh?" Harry mutters, the chaos making it impossible to tell friend from foe. The demon guards slash at the illusions, their swords passing through the smoke with a sharp asterisk swish asterisk. "They're not real, none of them are real," one guard screams, his voice cracking with terror. A Mysterio illusion looms over a guard, his glowing hands reaching for the man's throat. "Real? What is real?" the illusion asks, its voice echoing from every direction. The guards find themselves surrounded by the phantoms, their blades flashing in the eerie green light as they fight a losing battle against shadows. The illusions begin to merge and shift, their forms becoming distorted. "Is it masked brothers with a shared cause?" the voices ask, a chorus of mockery. A massive, monstrous version of the Green Goblin appears, its claws reaching for the guards as Mysterio hovers behind it. "Or is it what hides behind them?" the Nightmare asks. A guard screams in terror as the illusion closes in. "No, no, Eric," he bellows, the sound lost in the chaos of the factory floor. A blade flashes through the air, cutting through an illusion with a sharp slice asterisk, but more shadows immediately rise to take its place. "Ay!" another guard screams as he is overwhelmed by the phantoms. Harry flies through the factory, his glider narrowly missing the heavy machinery as he shouts to the workers. "Everyone out, get out of this building, now," he yells. "This is the manner in which you've chosen to prove yourself, son," the AI mocks. "I suppose I shouldn't have expected anything else. After all, that's how you decided to treat my company, your birthright, my pride and joy, and you pawned it off on your wife so you could play hero," it continues. Harry ignores the digital ghost, focusing on the people he can still save. "Now look at you, dealing with the rabble while she handles the bad guys. I suppose that means she's better at that than you are too. I'm saving people, Dad, that matters. Small people make small moves, Harry, and at your core, son, you will always be a failure. And that, disappointingly, is my greatest failure. I hope that you would be better." "Shut up, Dad, what?" "Not talking to you," Harry argues with the voice in his head as he helps a group of civilians to safety. Harry lands on the rooftop, the glider coming to a smooth halt as he sees Mysterio waiting for him. "Did you get them all out?" Mysterio asks. "Yes, did you take care of the demons?" Harry asks in return. "I did," Mysterio replies simply. Harry steps off the glider, his breath hitching as he thinks about the bombs left inside. "And you defused the bombs?" he asks, needing to be sure the neighborhood is safe. Mysterio turns to look at him, the green smoke swirling slowly within the helmet. "I never said anything about defusing them," she says, her voice chillingly calm. A split second later, a massive explosion rips through the building, a pillar of fire and smoke erupting into the sky. Boom. Harry stares at the wreckage, the heat of the fire warming his armor. "What the hell? You were supposed to disable the bombs," he shouts, his voice cracking with disbelief. Mysterio doesn't move, her gaze fixed on the burning factory. "No, I said I'd take care of them. And there it is taken care of," she responds, the lack of empathy in her voice terrifying. Harry's hands shake as he gestures toward the inferno. "These people could have gotten hurt. People could have gotten killed. Did you get everyone out?" Yes, I think so. There were no more heat signatures inside and—" "Gwen, what were you thinking?" he demands. Gwen steps toward him, the firelight dancing across the surface of her dome. "We're at war with a generational enemy, Harry. You know that, so we have to do whatever is required. I don't know why you're surprised by this. You were saying the exact same thing a few months ago," she reminds him. The green smoke within her helmet seems to pulse with a dark energy. "We do what has to be done, right?" she asks, her voice like ice. Harry looks away, his resolve shattered by the woman he thought he knew. "Right? Sure," he whispers, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. Days later, in the desert of Utah, a man hands a satellite phone to his companion. So, just like normal, you got 90 seconds until you have to worry about the trace. 5 minutes for normal people, the man says. Thanks, the other man replies. Peter Parker, now bearded and looking like a man who has been living in hiding for years, puts the phone to his ear. Hello, he asks. Hey Ben, it's me. How are things? The voice on the other end says. As always, interesting times. These days more than most, Peter replies. Peter's face is weathered by the sun and the weight of his secrets. Oh yeah, something I need to know about? He asks. You could say that, the caller responds. Back in New York, Ben Parker is on the other end of the line, sitting in his small apartment. Hold on, someone wants to say hello, Ben says, handing the phone to the figure standing beside him. Harry Osborn takes the phone, a small, sad smile on his face. Hey, Pete, he says softly. There's a long, deafening silence on the other end. Pete! Oh my God, Peter whispers, his voice trembling. Peter's eyes widen as the realization hits him that his oldest friend is alive. Harry, Peter asks. Yeah, it's me. Long story, but... Harry starts to explain. Harry stands in Ben's apartment, looking down at his old friend as he makes the call that will change everything. Come home, Peter. I need you, Harry says, the words a plea for help in the coming war. To be continued. The sun beats down on the rugged red rock formations of Utah, the vast expanse of the desert stretching out in every direction under a clear blue sky. A private jet descends toward a dusty, makeshift runway in the middle of the wilderness, its engines roaring as it prepares to touch down. The plane lands, a group of people wait near a weathered Jeep. You sure you're okay with this? With this? Of course I'm okay with this. This is what you do. Besides, he said he had a plan to put an end to our current situation, didn't he? A woman asks her husband. That he did, the man confirms. The cabin door of the jet opens, and Harry Osborn steps out onto the stairs, his eyes squinting against the bright desert sun. Well then, let's hear him out, he says, surveying the group waiting below. Harry walks toward the group, a heavy bag slung over his shoulder. I gotta say, it really bothers me that you don't look worse than you do, Peter, because you missed me. Kinda hurts my feelings, Harry jokes, trying to lighten the heavy mood. The two men come together in a fierce embrace, the years of separation and shared tragedy melting away for a brief moment. Shut up, Harry, Peter mutters into his friend's shoulder, a wide smile breaking through his beard. A woman with long red hair tied back in a ponytail and wearing a baseball cap watches them with a soft, knowing expression. Mary Jane stands with Harry and Peter, the three of them reunited in the most unlikely of places. You bring any babysitters with you? Harry asks with a grin. I sure did, MJ responds with a laugh. A young girl with auburn hair runs across the tarmac toward the plane, her face lighting up with joy. Uncle Ben, she screams at the top of her lungs. Ben Parker steps off the plane, followed by a man with a distinctive mustache and a camera bag. Hey, Jonah. Thanks for doing this, Peter says, shaking the man's hand. Don't mention it. I volunteered for far worse for much more terrible reasons. Where's the kiddo at? J. Jonah Jameson asks. Peter looks back toward their small encampment, his expression turning serious. Richard's back at the camp. He's pretty upset that I'm not letting him come along, Peter explains. Ben places a comforting hand on Peter's shoulder as they walk toward the Jeep. And why in the world would he think he had any business doing something like that? Ben asks. You'll see, but I think he'd rather show you guys than me ruin the surprise, Peter hints. Jonah looks at Ben with a raised eyebrow, a glimmer of his old newsman curiosity showing through. Oh, it's like that, huh? Don't listen to Ben. I don't know what he's complaining about. We love surprises, Jonah says with a smirk. Peter and Ben stop for a moment, the two men sharing a quiet, heavy look. So, you got this, Peter asks. Would you be able to sleep if you thought I didn't? Ben responds with a gentle smile. Peter pulls his uncle into a hug, the warmth of the gesture a stark contrast to the cold life he's been living. Missed you, Ben, he whispers. Ben walks away with May toward the Jeep, his step light despite his age. Go do a job. I don't want to stay long. Too many people my age come out here and never make it back. It's like a retirement black hole, Ben jokes as he helps the girl into the car. Peter turns back to Mary Jane, the two of them standing in the shadow of the jet as the engines begin to whine again. "Okay, so I guess this is it. Off you go," MJ says, her arms wrapped around his neck. "Aha," Peter agrees softly. MJ tips her cap back, her eyes searching his for any sign of doubt. "You two need a speech or something?" she asks with a playful glint in her eyes. Peter looks over at Harry, then back at his wife, the weight of the mission ahead settling onto his shoulders. "No, ma'am," he says, before heading for the plane. The jeep pulls away from the landing strip, leaving a trail of dust in its wake as it heads toward the distant red mountains. "She's a good woman, Peter," Harry notes, watching them go. The two men stand side by side, their shadows long against the desert floor. "Yes, she is," Peter agrees, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The silence of the desert returns, broken only by the sound of the wind whipping across the dry ground. "Harry?" Peter asks. "Yeah," Harry responds. Peter turns to look at his friend, his expression grave. "Where's Gwen?" he asks, the question he's been dreading finally coming to the surface. Harry's face hardens, the mention of her name bringing back the cold reality of the war they're about to rejoin. In a hidden, cavernous chamber deep beneath New York City, Gwen Stacy stands before a group of hooded figures, the air shimmering with green energy. "What have you done?" a man asks. "Oh, I'd say exactly what we were meant to be doing, Quentin. What have you been doing?" Gwen retorts. The leader of the group, a man with white hair and haunted eyes, looks down at her with a mixture of anger and fear. "Suffering fools. For decades," he says, his voice like the rustle of dead leaves. Gwen looks around the table at the other members of the council, all of them wearing the purple robes of their order. "What do you not understand? We make decisions together. We act as one. Not just because it purifies the idea, not just because it strengthens and aligns us, but because there is no forgiveness in this world for revolutionaries and radical thinkers," the leader explains. Gwen scoffs, her eyes flashing with a dangerous intensity. "What we do is talk and then talk some more. Talk, talk, talk. Well, not anymore," she says, her patience finally exhausted. A man with glasses and a sharp, intellectual face points a finger at her. "Please stop acting like you're the singularly righteous person in the room. You only did this because of your husband. To save him," he accuses. Gwen steps closer to him, her face a mask of cold, focused rage. "That's not true. Yes, I acted sooner than I planned. But once the die was cast once I acted, I tell you truly, I was ashamed that I had waited so long," she explains. The white-haired leader watches her, his expression unreadable. "So, no regrets?" he asks. Gwen looks him straight in the eye, her resolve as sharp as a razor. "None," she says without hesitation. The man with glasses leans back, his face darkening with worry. "What an enviable position to be in, and what a mess for us to clean up," he mutters. He looks at Gwen, his eyes narrowing behind his spectacles. "Clean up. She killed Craven. She publicly attacked Mr. Negative. There's no cleaning this up, Robbie. We are at war," he reminds the group. The white-haired man rests his chin on his hand, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. "And what of the mole man? He knows, more than anyone else in Kingpin's circle. Has anyone spoken to him?" he asks. "I have," another voice answers. The man with glasses continues to weigh the risks of their new reality. "So even if he plays innocent, he looks complicit. I don't think we have to worry about him. For now," he says. Robbie Robertson looks at Gwen, the weight of the coming conflict etched into every line on his face. "And the Kingpin, what does he whisper to his right-hand man?" Robbie asks, the question a warning for everyone in the room. Robbie points an accusing finger as the intensity of the meeting continues to climb. If she had not done this so publicly and on the goblin's arm then, perhaps it could have been spun as predictable infighting by ambitious lieutenants. But this left no doubt. "So now he wants us dead. And he will stop at nothing to achieve that," he shouts. The leader looks down at the table, the gravity of the situation sinking in. "So the die is cast," he mutters, the words a final judgment. Gwen looks away, her expression showing no sign of the guilt they're trying to force on her. "And all is as it was meant to be," she says quietly. The council members look at each other across the massive stone table, the silence in the chamber heavy with the weight of their collective fate. The leader looks at the only woman seated among them, her face partially hidden in the shadows. "You haven't said anything. Care to weigh in?" he asks. The woman looks up, her eyes reflecting the glowing energy of the room. "Yes, I do. I want to thank you, sister, for being brave while we were cowards," she says, her voice breaking the silence like a thunderclap. The white-haired man turns to her, his face a mask of shocked disbelief. "So you agree with her?" he asks, his voice trembling. The woman stands, her purple robes flowing around her as she gestures toward the council. "Of course. Are we here for a reason or not? Are we truly committed? Do we truly believe the words?" she asks, her voice rising with passion. She looks around the room, her gaze challenging everyone present to remember their original purpose. The world is a lie, and only through embracing those lies and becoming a master of them can we truly see, she recites, the words of their order. The leader looks at her with a mixture of pride and fear, knowing that the time for talk is finally over. "Our craft is old, older than the lie," he agrees softly. The man with glasses looks at the amulets lying on the table, their power shimmering in the low light. "Our power is ageless. The amulet passed from sire to spawn, 1 to wear it, 5 to share it," he recites. The leader looks at the group, his eyes burning with a new, dark purpose. "We are Mysterio," they all say in unison, the name echoing in the darkness of the chamber. Gwen smiles a small, dangerous smile as she prepares to lead them into the fire. "And off we go," she says, the war finally beginning in earnest. Spider-Man and the Green Goblin swing and fly through the neon-lit canyons of New York City, their movements a choreographed dance of speed and precision. "Feel good to be back, Pete?" Harry asks through the suit's comms. "Yeah, Dad. That's Spider-Man to you, pal, and it feels great to be back," Peter responds, the familiar rush of the wind filling his lungs. The two heroes move through the city like a single force of nature, taking down the demon guards with a combination of high-tech weaponry and superhuman agility. "You know what to do," Peter shouts as he dives toward a group of enemies, his webs weaving a trap that catches them before they can react. They land on a skyscraper rooftop, the city glowing beneath them like a carpet of fireflies. "But I feel much better. How much longer do we have?" Peter asks. "Quarter hour," Harry replies, checking his HUD. Peter fires a web line toward the next building, his muscles tensing as he prepares for another leap. "Okay, I want to do one more thing. Real quick," Peter says, the urgency in his voice clear. He swings across the city, the wind howling past his ears as he heads toward a familiar neighborhood. "Ah, home sweet," he starts to say, but the words die in his throat. Peter lands in the middle of his living room, his eyes widening as he sees the state of his home. The room is filled with giant mechanical centipedes and thick, white webbing that covers every surface. "Home, what happened here? This doesn't look like it was searched. It's more like..." "Oh God, what? You're gonna be mad at me," Harry says over the comms. Suddenly, a shadow moves in the corner of the room, and Peter fires a web line with a sharp asterisk thwip thwip asterisk asterisk. He pulls the figure out into the light, only to realize he's caught Otto Octavius, who is wearing Peter's slippers and a bathrobe. "Otto," Peter screams. "Oh, hello, you're back. Yes, in my house where you do not live. How do you know where I live? And are those my slippers?" "Maybe," Otto replies sheepishly, dangling from the ceiling in a cocoon of webs. Peter stands in the middle of the room, his hands on his head as he tries to process the absurdity of the situation. "What the?" he starts to ask. "Calm down. It's totally my fault," Harry interrupts, his voice coming through the suit speakers. Harry steps into the room, his armor making a soft, humming sound as he looks at Peter. "Remember how your family wasn't protected by my protocols when I disappeared because Otto didn't know who you were? Well, with you gone and God knows what could have happened to me, I wanted to make sure you and yours were fine. On a longer timeline. So I made a call," Harry explains. Peter points an accusing finger at Otto, who is still trying to disentangle himself from the webbing. "And then you just decided to move in?" Peter asks, his voice rising in disbelief. Otto looks down at the floor, his goggles reflecting the blue light of the room. "After I was done installing all the security measures, I figured waste not, want not. Will you please get me down?" Otto asks, the situation becoming more ridiculous by the second. Peter turns away, the frustration clearly showing through his mask. Maybe when we get back from our meeting, Peter says, his patience finally at its limit. He points a finger at Harry, his tone sharp and no longer playful. And you, I'm not sure how I feel about this, Peter warns, the betrayal of his privacy hitting harder than any villain's punch. The two heroes swing back out into the night, the argument continuing as they head toward their next objective. Okay, I know you're mad, but I remembered how worried you were about your family when we were trapped, and, well, I didn't want you to have to feel that way again. Harry tries to justify his actions. Peter swings effortlessly through the night sky, his focus back on the mission ahead. As for Otto, I had no idea. I'll get him a new place, and make him return the slippers, Harry promises. Peter fires another web line, his movements fluid and powerful as he navigates the city streets. Oh, he can keep 'em. Probably a good call. You made a good call too. I shouldn't be mad. I should be thanking you. It was the right decision. Peter finally admits, his anger fading as he realizes the intent behind Harry's actions. He swings higher into the air, the wind carrying his words across the skyline. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. I can only do my job the way it needs to be done if I know that they are safe, Peter concludes, the weight of his family's safety always at the core of his heroism. Hours earlier, in the dusty heart of Utah, the sun hung low over the desert, casting long, orange shadows across a fleet of weathered trailers and campers tucked away in a hidden valley. Mary Jane steps out of their Jeep, her boots crunching on the dry earth as she pushes her sunglasses up. All right, this is it. Home sweet home. Away from home, she says, looking out at the makeshift community they've called home for so long. She looks toward one of the smaller campers, its metal siding reflecting the last rays of the sun. It's going to be a little cramped, but we'll make it work, MJ notes, her voice filled with a weary kind of optimism. Ben walks beside her, his bag slung over his shoulder as he surveys the campsite. Actually, I was planning on sleeping outside. I can't remember the last time I looked up and saw the stars. More bed for me then, Ben says with a smile. It's a pull-out sofa, MJ reminds him. Jonah Jameson joins them, his tie loosened as he takes in the desert air. I'm a world-class editor, young lady. You can't provoke me with semantics. Now, where's your brother? Jonah asks, his eyes searching the area for the young Richard Parker. MJ walks toward the door of their camper, her expression suddenly changing when she sees a small piece of paper taped to the glass. Huh, what's? She asks, her voice dropping to a whisper. She pulls the note from the door, her hands shaking as she reads the handwriting on the page. Oh no, Mary Jane, what is it? Mom, what's wrong? May asks, sensing the sudden shift in the atmosphere. MJ looks at her daughter, her eyes filled with a sudden, sharp fear. Richard's gone, she whispers, the words hitting like a physical blow to everyone standing on the dusty ground. 1 hour earlier, Richard Parker sits in the back of a truck, his face illuminated by the glow of his smartphone. Status report from Utah. Bored, really freaking bored. Also, miss my girlfriend. Oh, is that what I am? Sure. Certain thresholds haven't been crossed, but when two people spend this much time together, well, you know. Well, then I suppose that would make you my boyfriend. And you know what superpowered boyfriends are really great at? What? Saving their girlfriends. Just say the word, Felicia. No, seriously, Richard, I need your help. I'm in trouble. Real trouble, the messages on the screen read, revealing a dangerous secret alliance. 5 minutes later, Richard is behind the wheel of a truck, his eyes fixed on the road ahead with a grim, focused determination. You don't have to say anything else. I'm on my way. I don't like where this is headed, Richard. We have to help her, Richard thinks to himself, his voice sounding much older than his years. He drives, a black liquid begins to seep from his skin, weaving itself into a suit that covers his entire body. Speaking with some authority on the subject, your parents definitely will not approve of this, especially since your father already told you that you couldn't go with him to help. This is reckless. It's dangerous. Imagine how much more dangerous it would be if I was flying solo. Good thing we're in this together. Manipulative, but agreed. Great. So, do you know anything about being sneaky? The symbiote AI asks him. The black-suited figure stands near the edge of the runway, his form shimmering as he activates a built-in cloaking device. A bit, he responds, his voice distorted by the suit as he prepares to board the next flight out of the desert. He boards the plane, his movements silent and ghost-like as he finds a place to hide. And that's how I found out that my wife was actually Mysterio. What? What? The conversation between the pilots and crew can be heard in the background, but Richard's focus is entirely on the mission ahead. Back in New York, the black-suited Spider-Man swings through the city, his movements much more aggressive and direct than before. He lands on the balcony of a luxury penthouse, his eyes narrowing behind the white lenses of his mask. "Oh man, I'm really happy to see you. Not so happy." A woman's voice calls out from the shadows. Peter enters the room, his eyes scanning the space for any sign of a trap. "As we are to see you," a deep, gravelly voice says from the center of the room. He looks around to see Felicia Hardy standing next to a massive, bald man who can only be Wilson Fisk. Fisk adjusts his suit jacket, his expression one of bored, professional brutality. "Language, understandable as it may be, I don't want you to be scared. Yes, your situation is precarious, but nothing bad needs to happen here. I just need your help." Fisk says, his tone making it clear that help is not a suggestion. He looms over the desk, his presence making the entire room feel smaller. "Ms. Hardy tells us that you slipped up when communicating with her. Giving away a little more each time certainly enough for a savvy player to read between the lines. I know that you are in league with Spider-Man." Fisk notes, his eyes fixed on Peter. Fisk leans forward, the light reflecting off his scarred face as he delivers the final ultimatum. "And one way or the other, you are going to give him to me," Fisk demands, his voice a low, terrifying rumble. Peter looks at Felicia, his heart breaking as he realizes the depth of her betrayal. "How could you? I thought, were you lying about us?" he asks, his voice thick with emotion. "No," Felicia responds, her face a mask of cold, unyielding pragmatism. He steps toward her, the black suit pulsing with his anger. "Then why would you do this? Isn't it obvious?" Peter asks, the silence in the room deafening. Felicia looks at him one last time, her eyes filled with a hollow kind of regret. "It's my nature," she says, before the screen fades to black, to be continued. The sun glints off the glass monoliths of Manhattan, a city that never sleeps and rarely finds peace. Birds scatter across the sky, oblivious to the drama unfolding beneath the rooftops. High above the streets, shadows stretch across a secluded rooftop as the month of July brings a sweltering heat to the city. Two figures stand in the quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing in the alleys below. Richard Parker stands encased in the oily sheen of the black suit, his face uncovered as he looks up at the sky. A soft voice breaks the silence, asking, "How are you doing?" The girl stares back with an intensity that matches the darkness of her mask. "I'm okay. How about you?" she asks, searching his eyes for a sign of the boy she once knew. Richard offers a faint, tired smile as the suit ripples around his neck. "Oh, I'm grounded. I shouldn't even be here," he admits, the weight of his secret life pressing down on him. She tilts her head, her curls catching the light. "Did you get in trouble because you ran away to help me, or because of what you did?" Richard looks away, the memory of his actions haunting his gaze. "Both," he whispers. She doesn't offer comfort, only a cold truth. "Well then, you probably deserve it, don't you?" They stand on opposite sides of a vibrant graffiti mural, the colors a jarring contrast to the grim conversation. The distance between them feels like a canyon that no web can bridge. Richard bows his head, letting the silence hang heavy in the air. He knows she's right, but the guilt is a burden even the suit can't help him carry. Flashbacks of the night the world changed flood his mind, a nightmare of black tendrils and spilled blood. Wilson Fisk looms over him like a mountain of malice, his voice echoing through the chamber. "So what's it gonna be, kid?" The suit begins to tighten, sensing the fear radiating from Richard's every pore. "Close your eyes, son, and don't open them until I tell you to," the living darkness whispers in his ear. Suddenly, the suit erupts into a monstrous display of jagged teeth and white eyes, a primal force of nature unleashed. It's no longer a costume, it's a predator, and the hunt has officially begun. Tendrils whip through the air like lashes of shadow, ensnaring the guards before they can even draw their weapons. A muffled hump, escapes a man's throat as he's yanked into the darkness. A sickening gawk fills the room as the creature strikes with lethal precision. Blood spatters across the floor, a grim testament to the suit's lack of mercy. Wilson Fisk watches the carnage with a mixture of shock and dawning horror. "What are you?" he stammers, the invincible kingpin finally finding something to fear. Chaos erupts as the suit tears through the elite security force. One-eyed Wesley screams over the din, "We can't stop this. Get the boss out of here." The monster lets out an ear-shattering "aye" as it lunges toward the fleeing kingpin. The doors offer no sanctuary from the nightmare that Richard Parker has become. The creature turns its terrifying gaze toward its next victim, the white eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. It is a vision of absolute power, untethered from human morality. In the corner, the girl cowers in her wheelchair, her hands over her ears as she begs for the nightmare to end. "No, no, no. Stop, stop it," she cries out into the void. She collapses to her knees, her face stained with tears as the creature looms over her. "Please," she sobs, her voice a fragile thread in a room full of monsters. The darkness recedes as quickly as it arrived, leaving a shaken Richard Parker standing in the ruins. "I'm sorry we scared you," he whispers, his voice barely audible over the ringing in his ears. Months later, at Fisk Tower, a board meeting is in session despite the city's crumbling state. "We thank everyone for coming, especially considering the state of things," a voice announces over the intercom. Wilson Fisk stands at the head of a long table, his presence commanding but his eyes betraying a deep-seated frustration. "It's been months. Where is he?" he demands, his voice a low growl. A man with a top knot leans forward, his expression grave. "I can tell you that Craven hasn't left our territories by any of the means that we normally use," he explains, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of betrayal. An older man with a cybernetic eye shield scoffs, his beard bristling. "HRMPT, there are plenty of ways to slip through our fingers unnoticed. Maybe he got tired of all this." Fisk's face hardens, the veins in his temple throbbing. "Ridiculous, Mr. Wesley," he barks, turning to his loyal advisor for a better answer. Wesley adjusts his tie, his face pale behind his glasses. "Nothing on my end either. And not to make matters worse, but perhaps it's time to consider our worst-case scenario." Fisk turns to look out the window at his city, the silence in the room deafening. "No, worst case is he's working with Mysterio," he muses, his mind already spinning new webs of conspiracy. The board members shift uncomfortably, the shadow of betrayal hanging over every chair. "I would think the worst case is much worse than that. Namely, so could one of us," a voice suggests from the far end of the table. The man with the top knot narrows his eyes, his suspicion landing on his colleagues. "Perhaps the best course of action on this front is for me to take control of each of you, peek under the hood, just so I can be sure." The man across from him slams his hand on the table, a clawed gauntlet digging into the wood. "That's an you wouldn't dare. Even if you did, we both know you're not powerful enough to dominate my will." The man with the top knot smiles, a cold, predatory expression. "That was years ago. I'm stronger now," he retorts, the air in the room thick with the scent of an impending power struggle. Fisk closes his eyes for a moment, the bickering of his lieutenants a constant headache. He's surrounded by vipers, each one waiting for a moment of weakness to strike. He lets out a long, weary sigh as he looks at the group. "Sigh, look at what they've done to us," he laments, the frustration of his stalled plans boiling over. Fisk turns back to the window, his gaze fixed on the skyline. "Because this is no world for justice or heroes. I have become obsessed with mystery instead of adversary," he admits to himself. He turns to the room, his voice regaining its steel. "You are right. We'll deal with Craven when we learn more. Until then, we have true enemies to crush." From the shadows, a man with a stitched face and a mask peers out, his eyes wide with a manic intensity. "And what about the monster?" he asks, his voice a raspy whisper. Fisk looks toward the man, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Hardy and I laid a trap with what I now suspect to be the begrudging assistance of his daughter. I was hoping it would be Spider-Man." The room falls silent as Fisk recounts the failure. "Instead, it was a nightmare. And while I suppose personal desires and divided loyalties are something we're going to have to deal with regarding the younger generation. Eyes narrow, a promise of violence in his gaze. In no particular order, I'm going to kill him, he declares, the weight of the statement settling over the room like a shroud. The man with the eye shield leans forward, his cybernetic eye whirring. And what do you plan to do with it when you get it? He asks, the hunger for power evident in his voice. Fisk looks down at his hands, his mind already moving to the next move. She did swear that it wasn't Spider-Man and that she doesn't know his real name, but her father thinks she might be lying. In another part of the city, the Green Goblin monitors a bank of screens, his mechanical face glowing. Okay, here they come, he whispers into his comms, a new plan unfolding in the neon night. Later, in a cluttered apartment, a television flickers in the dim light, forgotten. The scene is one of domestic chaos, but a far more dangerous mess is about to be made. A rhythmic scritch sound echoes through the room, coming from the wall. Something is trying to claw its way in, a sound that signals the end of safety. Craven the Hunter bursts through the drywall, accompanied by two of his goblin-like minions. They sniff the air, their senses heightened as they search for their prey in the suburban ruins. A security light outside the apartment clicks on, a sharp blarg 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 sound filling the air as it detects the intruders. The trap has been sprung, but who is the predator? Craven looks up, his expression one of mild annoyance. He grunts, his focus entirely on the man he came to find. He's not here for a fight, but he's more than prepared for one. A gloved hand presses a button on a remote control, a sharp beep sound echoing in the small room. The alarm system is deactivated, and the stage is set for a confrontation. Spider-Man clings to the wall in the shadows, his costume a stark red and blue against the darkness. You're never gonna believe this, but I stop by every day hoping someone might show up, he calls out to Craven. Craven looks up at the wall, a grim smile playing on his lips. Oh man, look at what you've done to the wall. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find a decent contractor in this city? Spider-Man quips, his banter a shield against the tension. Spider-Man drops down, landing near one of Craven's minions. What does that mean? He asks, his voice more serious as he senses the weight behind Craven's visit. Craven leans on his staff, his eyes scanning the room. It means they're coming for you. They don't know who you are yet, and because I am complicit, I've kept what I know secret for now. Peter Parker, out of costume, stands in the middle of his messy living room, his brow furrowed. I don't get it. I don't understand why you helped us in the jungle. He admits, his confusion plain. Craven looks at him, his expression tired. That's just how my powers work, and to answer the more important question, let's just say I don't care for who I've been associated with over the years. Peter stares at the wall Craven just burst through, his mind racing. I think you might have the wrong guy, he says, trying to distance himself from the hero Craven sees. Craven narrows his eyes, his voice taking on a warning tone. And your friends feel the same way? Because I saw what you went through. He reminds Peter, the memories of their shared battle fresh in his mind. A flash of memory shows Peter being tortured, chains rattling and electricity sparking. That changes a person, Craven's voice continues, the weight of the trauma evident in Peter's eyes. Back in the present, Peter looks at Craven with a newfound resolve. He's not the man he was before the jungle, and he's not sure he likes the person he's becoming. He looks Craven straight in the eye, his voice firm. I think you should leave, he says, the demand for privacy more important than the hunter's warnings. Craven nods, his minions already scrambling back through the hole in the wall. Just remember, he starts, his parting words a reminder of the storm that's coming for the Parker family. He turns back for one last look at Peter. The offer stands. I can help you, he says before disappearing into the night, leaving Peter alone with his thoughts and his damaged wall. A good bit later, a quiet suburban street is bathed in the cool light of the moon. A classic blue car sits parked in a driveway, a picture of normalcy that is about to be shattered. Richard Parker carefully slides his window open, his movements practiced and silent. He's sneaking back in, unaware that his secret life has already been discovered by the people he loves most. He climbs through the window, the black suit rippling as it retracts. His eyes widen in shock as he sees his parents waiting for him in the darkness. "Oh, $% escapes his lips. The black suit begins to react to his panic, tendrils and webs erupting from his body in a chaotic display. A sharp thwip 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 fills the room as he struggles to maintain control. Peter and Mary Jane stand in the doorway, their expressions a mix of anger and fear. "Language," Peter says, his voice a stern contrast to the chaos unfolding in front of them. MJ points a finger at her son, her face flushed with fury. "Richard Parker, I don't even know what to say to you right now. Actually, I know exactly what I want to say." She steps into the room, her voice rising to a scream. "If you think being grounded comes with some kind of selective participation, then maybe I need to grab your biggest book and beat you half to death with it." Richard looks at his mother, his expression one of defiance and fear. "I told you it was a bad idea," he mutters under his breath. "Shut up," MJ snaps back, her patience at its end. She looms over him, her eyes flashing. "And if you think for 1 second that suit can protect you from me, you are wrong. What did you just say to me?" she demands. Peter steps forward, his hand raised in a calming gesture. "I think we should maybe take a moment and everyone calm down. Son, your mother and I are going to go talk about what to do with you." They walk toward the stairs, the tension between them palpable. "So, I think that, yeah. Hold that thought for a second. Mom," Peter says, his focus shifting to the landing above. A white-haired woman leans over the banister, her expression curious. "Hey there, MJ. Thought I heard something rattling around, figured I would check it out," she says, her presence a sudden complication. MJ forces a smile, her heart still racing. "It's fine, it was," she starts, but her mother-in-law is already moving on. "Because it's hard not to hear everything. It's nice of Anna to let us all crash at her place." The older woman continues her monologue, oblivious to the drama. "But we are packed in here like sardines. Not that I'm complaining, I would never complain." MJ gives her a quick hug, her mind already back on the problem in the next room. "I hear you, Mom, and I agree, but it'll have to wait until later," she says, ushering Peter into their bedroom. Peter and MJ enter their room, the weight of the night finally catching up with them. MJ lets out a long, weary sigh as she leans against the bedpost, her resolve starting to fray. She looks at Peter, her expression one of desperation. "Okay, so, gotta say, I've officially reached my limit. I've had enough. What are we doing, Peter?" Peter looks at her, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. "Parenting," he suggests, his voice a weak attempt at humor in the face of their crumbling world. They stand in silence for a moment, the only sound the distant traffic outside. The reality of their situation is a far cry from the life they once dreamed of for their children. Peter looks away, his mind back on Craven's warning. "Or, it's possible we're talking about more than Richard here," he says, his voice a low whisper. MJ looks at him, her heart sinking. "Oh boy," she whispers, the realization that their secrets are catching up with them finally hitting home. She bows her head, her curls falling over her face. "I feel like I've taken all of this pretty well, that I've been a pretty good mom and wife," she says, her voice trembling with emotion. Peter steps closer, his hands reaching out to her. "No, you've been an amazing wife, and an even better mom," he says, his voice thick with sincerity. MJ looks up at him, her eyes filled with tears. "When you first started out, I forgave you for keeping it from me. I knew you were going through something, and if I was patient, you'd let me know when you were ready." She continues her litany of sacrifices, her voice gaining strength. "When you and Harry were kidnapped, I took care of the kids and did my best to remain calm, even though I was anything but." Peter looks at her, his heart breaking for the woman who has stood by him through everything. "Like I said, you've been amazing," he tries to say, but she's not finished. She looks away, the pain of Richard's secret weighing on her. "But this stuff with Richard, I thought it might, I dunno, be fun for the two of you, help you grow closer to him." She turns back to him, her gaze piercing. "And maybe that's how it started, but Peter, that suit is dangerous, and he's, she trails off, unable to find the words. Peter takes her hand, his thumb stroking her palm. "MJ, he's safer in that suit than you are walking across the street. Look, that doesn't mean I like it, doesn't mean I'm not also terrified when he puts it on. He looks at her with a newfound resolve. But for the time being after, what he's backed into, I want him sleeping in the thing. And what about May and me? MJ looks at him, her eyes wide with fear. And my family, who we might be dragging into this by hiding out here? What about Ben? She asks, her voice a desperate plea for safety. Peter sits on the bed, pulling her down beside him. What about everyone? We're all trapped in this city with these maniacs in charge. It's why they have to be stopped. It's why this has to end. MJ looks at their joined hands, her resolve finally breaking. We have a plan. Well, the beginnings of a PL, Peter says, but MJ is already moving to the next question. She looks at him, her gaze searching his for any sign of doubt. And you trust them, Harry and Gwen? She asks, her voice a low whisper in the quiet room. Peter looks away, his mind back on the secrets he's still keeping. I trust Harry. He trusts Gwen, he admits, his voice lacking the conviction she needs to hear. MJ pulls her hand away, her expression hardening. I don't want to ask anymore. Peter, I just don't know how much more of this I can take, she says, her voice flat with exhaustion. She turns back to him, her eyes filled with a new, dangerous resolve. Tell me what you need me to do. Seriously. Anything. What? She demands, her voice rising with each word. She looks him straight in the eye, her voice a command. I know that you've answered every question I've had, but I don't want to have to do that anymore. I want you to tell me everything that I need to know.